good. One last question for you. What's the impact that you want to have on the world?
The one thing that I'm really good at and I should do is find ways to take complex ideas and make them into something that is tangible for everyone. So this is the impact I want to be. I want to find ways, movies, conversations, products, students, to have everyone have the option. So I want everyone in the world to know enough so they can make a decision by themselves.
I love it.
Controversial subject. The theories expressed are not the only possible interpretation. Viewers are invited to make a judgment based on all available information.
Everything we've been told about history is wrong. And how we got here is really a very interesting question to ponder.
There are known knowns. There are things we know we know. We also know there are known unknowns. That is to say, we know there are some things we do not know.
How we got here as far as the control system goes is, of course, someone had an idea, put it into motion, and here we are. But when you look at the control system and you look at what we've really done since the Industrial Revolution, it's really quite miraculous. It really is. Even when you look at what we've done in the last 30 or 40 years, technology has simply snowballed. Some of the technology we're using now is stuff that was never dreamt of when I was a child. It was all science fiction when I was a child. This was stuff out of Flash Gordon and bizarre comic books. But even Flash Gordon and some of the bizarre comic books didn't have the stuff that we've got now. So you really have to wonder where it all comes from. The point is, what I'm saying here is you can't really date a lot of the information that we believe we can date, because all that really can be confirmed is that which exists within living memory. That's what we've got. You know, we don't really have any idea where we are, where we come from, or what's really going on here at all. And when you look at the growth of technology in the last 100 years, it really is quite amazing that we've managed to achieve what we've achieved, which again begs the question, where did it all come from? See, it's so difficult to get any real handle on history because there's been so much effort undertaken to destroy history. And really, that's what we're seeing now in the Middle East. I mean, why do you think they wage all these wars in the Middle East? It's because it's the cradle of civilization. And they're just destroying history all over the Middle East. They're destroying all the ancient artifacts they can, all the ancient cities they can, all the ancient structures that they can. Because the stuff that's there in the Middle East that they're bombing in Syria, places like Aleppo and Palmyra, these are far older than the places that you find in Europe. I mean, remember when they went into Iraq, one of the first things that the Allies did when they went into Iraq in the Gulf War was they looted the Baghdad Museum. And a lot of the artifacts in the Baghdad Museum were actually found scattered around the side of the road in certain back areas in the United States. All smashed to pieces, of course, but I remember some of these things even made the news, the fact that they were found. So they went in there specifically to destroy the history, to locate all the ancient artifacts that indicated there was any history, and just take them and destroy them. Many of these things were priceless, and they didn't even sell them. They didn't sell them on the black market or anything. They just took them to destroy them. The question is why? Over the ages, there's been so many groups that have destroyed so much stuff. I mean, the burning of the Alexandrian Library, for example, which was burnt by one or two, possibly even three groups of people, burnt by the Christians, burnt by the Arabs, burnt by anybody who wanted to burn it. You look at ancient Egyptian civilization, it seems to have sprung full-blown into being right from day one. That all seems perfectly normal. Look at Chinese civilization. That's always been an incredibly advanced civilization and always very hidden, and we don't know anything about where that came from because many Chinese emperors took it upon themselves to destroy all the history books that existed before them because they decided they would be the beginning of history and history should start with them and there should be no one before them. So they destroyed all of the ancient scrolls that existed before they were born, before they took rulership, so the history would start there. And I think a couple of emperors actually did that in China. So it's pointless looking there for any information. We may have got something from the Mayans, but the Spanish did a great job of destroying all of their information. We do have one or two codexes left, but people simply can't translate them properly. Of course, there's a rich history to be found in Europe, but God knows what it is, because Europe has been a war zone since recorded history even started. So it's very difficult to know what happened there, because there's been so many cultures come and go, and so many armies march across the land, and so much destroyed across Europe. And of course, as in the case with any good battle, history is written by the winners. And all you've got to really do is go and travel around the world and look at stuff to see the truth of this. I mean, nothing is what they tell us it is. None of it makes sense. Nothing that they tell us makes sense. But when were they there is the question. Was it all really as long ago as what we think it was? And again, that may seem like a very strange question to ask, but I don't know, folks. I mean, everything we've been told is a lie, so you have to question this as well. You know, and the fact that it's so difficult to really discover too much about the Earth is what has promoted the concept of things such as the Flat Earth Society, the Flat Earth Movement, which has done so much damage to the resistance. It really has. Just the distrust and the divide and conquer and the insults and all the stuff that goes with it. I mean, you can research whatever you want, but you don't have to insult others while you do it. But even when looking at it, you can't blame the Flat Earthers for what they do. You really can't, because there's so much wrong with the model that we're given. I mean, it doesn't mean it's flat, but there's certainly a lot wrong with what we're told is going on here. So you can understand where they've got the fuel for the fire that they're burning at the moment. And that's why the Flat Earthers and the Globe Earthers have got to put down all this fighting with each other and realise that they're both being played, and they both have a common enemy, which is the one that created the mystery to begin with. And all we have to do is to realise that all this stuff we're looking at, nobody really knows for sure, and all we have to do is agree to disagree and get a little bit of focus. Because one thing we do know, the world is run by criminals. And if we get a little bit of focus there, we're at a time in history where I believe we can actually fix it. Of course, there's two popular schools of thought on where we come from. There are others, but there's the two most popular, which of course is evolution or creationism. I personally don't particularly buy into either of them. Evolution is completely ridiculous. I mean, even Charles Darwin said it was a theory, and there's so many missing pieces that it just doesn't fit together. I mean, the concept that we would have come from apes and gorillas is ridiculous, because these things still exist, and so do we, and there's never been any transitional species found, and there never will be. And there's so many differences between us and gorillas and apes that it just beggars belief that they could even have suggested it to begin with. And, you know, and they'll present it to you and make it sound all very believable, and they'll say things like, look, there's only 1% difference in the DNA between apes and humans, so there's a close cousin. What they don't tell you is there are 20 billion base pairs in the human DNA, and so 1% of that is 20 million base pairs, and no matter how you look at it, that's a huge difference between species, folks. There's a great book that was put out by Lloyd Pye called Everything You Know Is Wrong, where he went through the whole plethora of differences between us and apes and virtually proved that evolution from apes is impossible for humans. So that theory really doesn't work, no matter what people might say, and no matter how much it's promoted by the mainstream. Of course, the other theory is creationism. I don't particularly buy into that, but some people do. But of course, it's one of those theories that you can't really debate, you can't really offer proof of, it simply rests on faith. And so that just depends on your religious perspective. Those who choose to believe it do, and those who choose not to don't. But the thing is, even with either of those theories, none of them really explain. Neither of them explain all the ruins that are lying around everywhere. None of them explain why they've gone to such an incredible amount of effort to hide history from us. And if you don't think they have hidden history, folks, if you think I'm sort of stretching it by even saying that, well, just ask yourself why all these things exist all around the earth, why all these monuments are there, and why they're all hushed up and we're not told about them. And of course, you've got a whole group of people, such as David Icke even will tell you that the whole place is run by reptiles.
World governments are controlled by a reptilian, non-human race.
And of course, that sounds completely preposterous to people, and then you start looking through all the ancient texts, and you start looking through all the cave drawings and all the stuff that you hear from the Native Americans and all this sort of stuff, and they all talk about reptiles and their snake brothers. You also hear it from the Australian Aboriginals. But again, you've got to wonder how much of it has simply been put there. How much of them are real and how many have been concocted. That's the thing, you just don't know. And getting back to the concept that the Earth has been invaded and is being strip mined, you could even ask yourself whether the Flat Earth movement was introduced right at the time they are finishing their mining operations to make people believe that space doesn't exist and that aliens are impossible. And the thing is, you can prove just about all of it to be true, but that doesn't make any of it so. And you see how easy that was to just construct a believable scenario. And some people may say, oh no, that's not believable. But well, you know, if you're a conspiracy theorist, then maybe it is believable. That's the thing, folks. You just don't know. See, any scenario could be true. And the thing is, folks, that if you really get out there and you start looking at all the information and you start gathering information and you start preparing yourself some type of a presentation or whatever, you can prove anything you want to prove. That's the thing. Like I said, you can prove that it's all about flat Earth, or you can prove that it's all about globe Earth. You can prove the Earth has been invaded. You can prove that the flat Earth was introduced to cover up the fact that the Earth is invaded. And you can prove all of those things, plus you can prove a whole bunch of other things as well. You can prove that there's reptiles living under the ground and controlling everything from under the Earth. You can prove that it's all run by the Jews. You can prove that it's all run by the Jesuits. You can prove that it's all run by the Freemasons. You can prove that it's all hologram. But the thing is, you can only prove any of it up to a certain point. But you can prove it enough to make it believable and to get other people to believe it. And you can only do that because they've hidden history, and the fact is that we don't know. Any one of the scenarios that I've outlined for you today is true. I can prove it. But that doesn't make any of it true. Because the reason I can prove any of them to be true is because all the information has been put out there to be able to create a believable scenario about anything you choose to believe.
The tycoons of social media have to stop pretending that they're friendly nerd gods building a better world and admit they're just tobacco farmers in t-shirts, selling an addictive product to children. Because let's face it, checking your likes is the new smoking. Philip Morris just wanted your lungs. The App Store wants your soul.
There are 2 billion people, more than 2 billion people on Facebook. That's more than the number, it's about the number of notional followers of Christianity. People check their phones 150 times a day, the millennial sort of audience. And so if you think about it, from the moment you wake up, it's like you're jacked in to this environment. And thoughts start streaming into your head, designed by a few technology companies.
What we find is the typical person checks their phone every 15 minutes or less. And half of the time they check their phone, there's no alert, no notification. It's coming from inside their head telling them, gee, I haven't checked in Facebook in a while. I haven't checked on this Twitter feed for a while. I wonder if somebody commented on my Instagram post. That then generates cortisol, and it starts to make you anxious. And eventually your goal is to get rid of that anxiety, so you check in.
And apparently we feel stressed when we can't get our phone or when our battery is about to die. You probably know this feeling. And a research done in Australia among 3,000 people under the age of 30 found that 9 out of every 10 admit to feel this anxiety while having his battery dying.
Steve Jobs revolutionized the entire world with the iPhone, and he never let his children use it, because he did not want them dependent on technology.
Right now, an infant is getting their first laptop that's soft and squishy and makes noise. Right now, a child is being born online and being favorited and retweeted.
The hypergenerational segregation of our time is bizarre, unhealthy, and historically unprecedented. You've never seen the like of people sitting at a table in a restaurant not talking to each other because they're texting and using their Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, and they are at the table and don't even know each other, in the house and can't even talk to each other. And the pressure that's on us to be like everybody else is so great that everybody tries to live like they're in a reality show.
As a culture, we don't have enough in common anymore. And that's because the internet, which was supposed to unite the world, has become too adept at serving us personalized content. Do you know what I saw on Yahoo's front page this morning? No, you don't, because mine isn't the same as yours. People get news feeds now that just spit back customized stories based on what we've clicked on in the past.
We are great consumers, but poor producers. We will buy what we can't afford with money that we don't have to impress people we don't even know, trying to be like everybody else. Get off of Facebook and put your face in a book.
Right now, a teenager is photoshopping their selfie because as a society, we're telling them they're not good enough. Right now, influencers encourage narcissism without knowing the breadth and depth of their impact on their audiences. Right now, 40,000 spectators are in an Olympic football arena watching a competitive esports competition because this is this generation's football match.
There's always this narrative that technology is neutral and it's up to us to choose how we use it. This is just not true.
Technology is not neutral.
It's not neutral. They want you to use it in particular ways and for long periods of time because that's how they make their money.
You don't realize it, but you are being programmed. It was unintentional, but now you got to decide how much you're willing to give up, how much of your intellectual independence. If you feed the beast, that beast will destroy you. If you push back on it, we have a chance to control it and rein it in. And it is a point in time where people need to hard break from some of these tools and the things that you rely on. The short-term dopamine-driven feedback loops that we have created are destroying how society works. No civil discourse, no cooperation, misinformation, mistruth. And it's not an American problem. This is not about Russian ads. This is a global problem.
I challenge everyone to try going 1 week without social media.
Don't let your phone and social media control you.
It takes about 72 hours, is what the studies are showing. About 3 days. If you are choosing to create something new and it doesn't come to you easily at first, please do not give up. Because it takes about at least 3 days for these antennae to wire. That is because the information is not in here. Just to add to this, how real this is, researchers in Silicon Valley are now building the next generation computer chips, and guess what? They're not based on silica. They're based on droplets of water that are purified and very, very specific forms of structured water. And when they started pumping the information into that droplet of water, the water droplet was holding more information than could possibly be explained by the chip itself. And they said, where is the information going? And now they know that the chip based in water is storing information in a field that expands beyond the machine itself.
Our identity is not inside our body. Our identity is picked up by protein antennas on the surface of our cells. The reality is our source is from the outside and the signals get picked up by the proteins and then control the cells on the inside.
This field provides three functions. It is the container, the field that connects all things. It is the container for everything that happens in our experience. Nothing exists beyond this container. It's the container. It is the bridge between our inner and our outer world, and it is the mirror in our external world for what we claim to believe in our inner world. This is the field.
The body is like a television set and there's a broadcast coming in. Mind is not even in the body. If you get your mind in the outside, there's an opportunity at a level to communicate. This is a virtual reality suit. You jump into this suit, you drive it around, the experiences of this suit are sent back to source. That's where we start to recognize your brain activity is not contained in your head. You can use magnetoencephalograph probes outside of your head and you can read your brain activity. So you're broadcasting back to the field. And that's why we can see a sunset We can taste that chocolate. We can smell that rose.
How many of you saw the movie The Matrix? So remember in The Matrix when they would hook that little gadget to the back of their neck and they would download the programs and learn those things almost immediately. Remember that? The equivalent of that is what we did together in here yesterday. When we choose to make those changes in our lives, Bruce is saying you can't do it through your conscious mind. When you create the heart-brain harmony, that coherence, it's called optimum heart-brain coherence. When you've got that 0.1 hertz signal between your heart and your brain, that opens the door to the subconscious. That's the equivalent of plugging that cable in right at the base of your skull. And it's at that place where you insert the new beliefs, the new thoughts, the new ideas, the new ways of thinking. That is you downloading that new information very, very quickly.
We're not living our lives, we're living the lives of programs. And if you don't like the program, the new biology is the one that says you can rewrite it. And if you rewrite it to make your creation, not the one you bought as the creation, you will manifest heaven on earth. You will wake up every day with the glory of being in the most spectacular planet and the ability to create life.
So you know when you begin learning a foreign language, the words sometimes they seem awkward. You learn phonetically and you say the words, but they don't really mean much. And all of a sudden you wake up one morning and like you're speaking Spanish or you're speaking Tibetan or you're speaking French or whatever it is. You know how that happens. All of a sudden it's like almost overnight and you say, well what happened? Well, here's what the science is now telling us. All possibilities exist as information in the field. The information is not in the cells. What we do in the cells is we grow, and Bruce, it's exactly the term that I use, what are called soft antennae. So the way that the neurons wire and fire create the antenna that tune to the place in the field where that information lives. It is the very act, the act of you striving to become more in one moment than you were in the last moment. It's the act of you reaching deep within yourself to grasp a new way of thinking. So a new language or a new song on a guitar, a piano, or a new book to write, or a new title, or new poetry, or new sculpture, new art, whatever it is, that act is the impetus for the neurons to wire together to create the antenna that reach into the field where that information lives that you are asking to have access to. But the thing is, it doesn't happen spontaneously. It takes about 72 hours is what the studies are showing. About 3 days. So it takes about 3 days for these neurons to hook up, to reach out and firmly establish the connection with another like neuron so that they're forming the antenna that tune to the place in the field where everything that you desire to understand or know or create or perform, it already exists. If you are choosing to create something new and it doesn't come to you easily at first, please do not give up, because it takes about at least 3 days for these antennae to wire. That is because the information is not in here. It is in the field, and that could not happen if these ideas were not correct. So I'm showing you it's going beyond theory.
We have to recognize something very important, and that is only 5% of the day are you operating from your conscious creative mind, and 95% of the day you're operating from subconscious programs. But then I say, well, what would happen if you stopped playing the program? And the answer is so wonderful, because all of you have taken that red pill at some point, and that was when you fell deeply in love with somebody. And I say, what was happening when you fell deeply in love? And I say, for the first time in your life, you stopped thinking, because everything you wanted is now right in front of your face. And when you stop thinking and you become what is called mindful, then you are in absolute control. I say, look, your life could suck every day until you met this person, and then heaven. And 24 hours later, you can experience heaven. And what was the difference? You stopped thinking and started being present. And so it becomes important if you want to transform, then you stay present and you repeat what you like, and repetition is what will reprogram your subconscious. So as long as you stop the old talk, put in what you want, and repeat what you want, you have an opportunity to rewrite any program in your life. The two minds, conscious and subconscious, have different functions. Conscious mind is creative, primarily. Subconscious mind is habitual, primarily. The problem is subconscious mind is the habit mind. And habits do not change easily for great benefit. For example, when did you learn how to walk? Most everyone have learned how to walk before 2. Did you have to relearn how to walk? Hopefully not. I say, well, you could be 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 plus years, and you're still using the habit program. So the emphasis on subconscious is not to change easily, because if it does, then habits don't exist. So the issue is, then how can you change the subconscious mind? And there are two fundamental ways, because the first, these are natural ways. How did you learn in the first 7 years? Hypnosis. So auto-hypnosis is a way of putting in a new program and transforming your life. After age 7, how did you learn after age 7? Repetition. You repeated. You made habitual habit out of the thing that you wanted. And so this is where the fake it till you make it part comes in. But the issue about it is you have to recognize the biggest error that we have is that we think that if our conscious mind just became aware of something, that our subconscious mind has that information. Absolutely not. So if you want to transform and you want to get out of the old program, just educating the conscious mind will not do that. You have to do some exercise, some process, something. Energy psychology is a new way of changing beliefs as well, very rapidly. But the moment you understand how you can train the subconscious is the moment you are free, because then you become the programmer of your own life. The subconscious mind. You can eliminate the programs that are detrimental or sabotaging you or taking you away from your goals and aspirations, and replace them with programs that will encourage everything you want in life. But to understand this, we have to understand that the conscious and the subconscious mind learn in totally two different ways. The conscious mind is the creative mind. The conscious mind, of course, is the one connected to your personal identity, your spirit, your source, whatever way you want to describe that. And I say it's a creative mind, meaning this: how can the conscious mind learn? I go, well, it could read a self-help book. And just from reading the book, the conscious mind could say, yes, this is what I should know. This is how I should do things. And so many people read self-help books, and then I say at the end, has your life changed? And most people say, well, no, not really at all. And I say, well, is it because you don't know the information? And I go, I ask you questions, and your conscious mind can repeat back everything in the book. So I say, oh, well, you got all this information in your conscious mind, so why isn't your life changing? And the answer is, because we only use that conscious mind about 5% of the time. And just because the conscious mind learned from reading the book, it didn't mean the subconscious mind learned. So the subconscious mind still has the original programs in it, so you're still in the same place. So here's the point. The conscious mind, being creative, can learn from reading a self-help book, going to a lecture, watching a movie. The conscious mind can learn from something as simple as, aha, I just figured it out. So the conscious creative mind has many different ways of downloading information. But the two minds are not connected in the sense that if the conscious mind learns something, does it mean that the subconscious mind has learned this as well? And the answer is absolutely not. The conscious mind learns through its creative processes, but the subconscious mind learns primarily in two ways, and now there's a third way that we can talk about. And I say, so what's different? I say, conscious mind, read a book, watch a movie, hear a lecture, it's downloaded, it already knows. Subconscious mind doesn't learn that way. The subconscious mind is a habit mind. Well, there's two ways to get programs into that subconscious mind. Number one was the way we downloaded information into the subconscious mind in the first 6 or 7 years of life, and that is this. The subconscious mind is operating at a vibrational frequency of theta,
which is hypnosis. So it says, oh, yes, you can download information straight into the subconscious if your mind is in a state of hypnosis. So that's one way of acquiring a program. I said, well, the first 6 or 7 years, that's brain of a child is predominantly operating in theta hypnosis, but now you're older, now what do? I go, well, here's an interesting fact. Twice a day, your brain goes through a period of theta vibrational activity. Twice a day, your brain is prepared to download information through hypnosis. I say, well, when does that occur? Well, remember, there are vibrational frequencies that ramp up. When you're sleeping, you're at the lowest vibrational frequency called delta. As you start to wake up, but you're not fully awake, that's twilight reverie. That's where you're just waking up and everything. You're still in a dream world, you're in the real world, you're mixing the two. That's a period called theta. So you go from dead sleep, delta, as you begin to wake, the vibrations start to go up and you're in theta. So there's a period of theta where hypnosis can occur. But as you get more awake, theta gets to a higher vibration. Alpha, that's calm consciousness. You're just waking up. You're doing your routine chores of getting ready to leave the house. And by the time you're getting ready to go to work or at work, your brain ramps from alpha, calm conscious, to beta, which is the active consciousness that we usually engage in the busy world in which we live. Well, then you come back home. Well, you've been operating in beta at work, and guess what? You come home, you start to calm down, your brain slips into the lower vibrational frequency, alpha, calm consciousness, and as you start to get ready to go to bed, guess what? From alpha, it drops down to theta as you start to fall off to go to sleep. And when you finally are in sleep, you go from theta to delta. So that means as you're going to sleep, as you're going from the alert state to the sleep state, you also pass through theta. So twice a day, your brain is engaged in theta. On the way in waking up, going from delta to higher vibrations, you pass through theta. On the way of going to sleep, you go from higher vibrations to delta and again pass through theta. So twice a day, your brain is in a state where it is in a state of hypnosis theta. And this is where you can use subliminal tapes to reprogram your subconscious mind. As you go to bed, if you put earphones on, with subconscious programming to change whatever behaviors you want to change. As you're going to bed, those earphones on your head, as you go into theta, your alpha consciousness is now disappearing. You're in theta, and in that period of theta, which is twilight reverie, the recording of the tape is being downloaded straight into the subconscious. And that's how subliminal tapes work. So if you want to change a program, you can select a tape that will have the program that you desire to put into your mind. And every night as you go to bed, just put the earphones on and you will be in a process of self-hypnosis. Hypnosis is indeed the first way the subconscious mind learns. But after you pass 6 or 7 years of age, the subconscious mind learns in a different way, and that is called habituation. Meaning, if you repeat something and repeat it and repeat it, the subconscious mind will download it and make it a habit. So for example, you wanted to learn the ABCs. How did you learn the ABCs? You started A, B, C, D, E, and then you couldn't remember, and then you start A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and you repeat it, and finally you get to Z. And guess what? After repeating the alphabet hundreds of times, there's a point where now it's part of the subconscious, so guess what? It's now downloaded in your mind. If I ask you to give me the sequence of the alphabet, you can simply rattle off unconsciously A through Z without even thinking about it. Why? You created a habit that downloaded the alphabet. So, after you're 6 or 7, and you want to change programming your life, a way of doing it is the conventional way, is creating a habit, repeating something on almost a religious level. Let me just make it clear. A sticky note on the refrigerator is not a habit. A sticky note on the refrigerator is more or less a wish. Every time you look at it, I wish that would be true, but that's not a habit. A habit means you have to do something and repeat it and repeat it and repeat it. That's the way you learn everything after you're 7, and that's how you learn how to drive a car, for example, or the work that you do, or whatever activities you get involved with. When you repeat them, they become habits in the subconscious mind. A third way, which is a more recent understanding and a more effective way of changing subconscious programming is through belief change modalities or energy psychology. These are collectively processes by which you open up the mind into a state of superlearning, where you can download information virtually instantaneously and rewrite programs in a matter of 10 minutes even. A program that's been affecting your whole life, you can rewrite that using these new belief change modalities and creating downloads of new behaviors in matters of minutes. Again, it's tantamount to superlearning. You say, what's superlearning? I say, well, maybe you've seen a demonstration where a person can open up a book and they read the book. As fast as they move their finger down the page, they read the page. And so they're flipping through the pages. Guess what? Superlearning. Well, if you employ that process, you can encourage the download of new behaviors into the subconscious mind. But now comes a very important issue. What are the programs you have to change in your subconscious mind? Especially important is the fact that most of these programs were introduced into you even during the last stage of pregnancy, the last trimester, in the first 6 or 7 years of your life. So I say to you, well, tell me about the programs that you learned when you were 1 year old. Tell me about the programs you learned when you were 2 years old. And you go, I don't know, I wasn't consciously aware of those things. I go, yeah, because consciousness started more around 6 or so. So I say, well, how do you know then the programs that you have? Here's the fun part of the whole thing. Science has revealed that we operate our lives 5% of the time from the conscious mind, and 95% of the time our behaviors are controlled by the programs in the subconscious mind. What does it mean? It's simple. Your life is essentially a printout of your subconscious programs. That's what you're operating 95% of the time. So you want to know what the programs are? It's very simple. Look at your life. The things that work for you and that come to you and the things that you want come to you because you have programs in the subconscious that encourage their being there. But anything you struggle with, anything you have to work hard at, anything you put an effort into, you're doing that because you're trying to overcome a program of limitation that is preventing you from going there. So all you have to do is look at your life and say, hey, what works for me works because I already have programs to support that. What I'm struggling with in life, I'm having a problem with because I have subconscious programs that do not encourage that behavior. So right away you automatically know what behaviors do you want to change. They're the ones that you have difficulty with. Okay, how do you change them? Well, you can use self-hypnosis, the subliminal tapes. You could change them by creating new behavioral habits that you repeat every day religiously, changing the old behavior and rewriting it live every time, saying, no, don't do it that way. No, don't do it that way. Talking to yourself and saying, that's not what I want. This is what I want. And you constantly repeat this to yourself. Guess what? Habit will inevitably change that program and put it into the new program.
Tell us in their texts 2,500 years ago, very precise language, that every human lives in this earth in 3 worlds at the same time. We live in the world of thought, the world of feeling, and the world of emotion. And their texts actually say to us, when these 3 become one, when the thought and the feeling and the emotion are merged, are married together into a single potent force, then when you say to the mountain, move, the mountain will move. Now, I used to believe that this was a metaphor. And now I have seen in the monasteries of Tibet, and I've seen with the holy and the sacred people in Bolivia and Peru, in the native traditions of the desert Southwest, in the medicineless hospitals in Beijing, China, this is not a metaphor. It is a literal fact. When thought, feeling, and emotion become one, we literally can change the stuff our world is made of. We can rearrange the atoms of matter through the belief waves that emanate from our heart. So the question is, when we are experiencing judgment and ego, what is that saying to us really? Well, the first thing it's telling us is that we are not in our heart, because the heart has no judgment and the heart has no ego. When we are experiencing those qualities it is coming from our mind. It's coming from our inner child. It's coming from our fear, from our families, our perceptions, our conditioning. But it's not coming from our heart. When something hurts us in life, when something crosses our path that causes us pain, our first reaction is to move away from it, to say, I don't want that. And that is when the judgment comes in. If we can embrace the experiences when someone or an experience hurts us in life, not that we like the experience or we want to have it again, but the ancients say that we should bless the experience. And this sounds very strange, to bless the things that hurt you. But here's what happens. When we begin to bless the things that cause us the pain, the blessing is simply the acknowledgement. When you say, I bless the person who has just been dishonest with me. I bless the person who has violated my trust, betrayed my confidence. And you say that again and again, and you say it out loud. What begins to happen is the verbal expression brings the physical energy up from the heart into the body. And soon your body becomes warm and you have tears in your eyes and you say, I bless this person, I bless this person. And it is the blessing that relieves the charge of the judgment for just a moment. And that's all we need. Because for just a moment, when the charge is relieved, we can replace the hurt with something else. And the ancients say that that something else is what we call beauty. Beauty is a powerful force in our world, and it already exists everywhere. The ancient Essenes and the Native Americans alike, they say that beauty is already everywhere in everything. Our job is to find that beauty, to seek it out. So rather than judging the experiences when they come to us, if we can look at each experience as a blessing, and when we find ourselves hurt, say, again, yes, I feel hurt, so acknowledge it first. Secondly, what is this hurt saying to me? What voice am I hearing? What does it tell me about my life? And bless the hurt now that is giving us information about ourselves. As we begin that experience, it is much easier then for our thoughts, feelings, and emotions to become one so that we can move that mountain when it comes across our path. The question then that the scientist asks is, if we know the experiences work, if we know that when one person or a group of people come together and they share a common experience in their heart for a period of time, such as the International Peace Project in the Middle East, where people came together to feel the feelings of peace during the Lebanese-Israeli War in the early 1980s. During the time they created those feelings, statistically, terrorist activities dropped to zero, crimes against people declined, emergency hospital room visits declined, traffic accidents declined. And so the scientists ask, if this prayer is so powerful, then why didn't it last? And this is the crux, the secret of the ancient traditions that has been missed by so many people today. Because this experience in our heart was viewed by the scientist as something you do for a moment in time. So you go about your daily life, and at a certain time you stop your daily life and you do this heart experience, this prayer, and when the prayer is over, you stop the prayer and go back to your life. And the crux of our most cherished, sacred, and ancient traditions is very clear that this experience of the heart is not something that we do. It is something that we become. It is something that we live in our lives. Life becomes the prayer. Every moment of every day is the prayer. And because this modality of prayer, it's called the lost mode of prayer, feeling-based prayer, because the prayer is based in a feeling, and we can have a feeling all the time. We can have a feeling in our cars, driving on the highway. We can have a feeling in the office, in the school, with our families, alone in the park. We can always have a feeling, and that means we can always be in prayer. But it's not something that we do in a moment. It's a way of living. It's a way of life. It's something that we become. And when we do that, the prayer never ends. And that is the secret to maintaining the powerful effects that are documented by science and that the ancient texts and the Essenes tell us are possible in our lives. If I had the opportunity, if I came to this world from another world, and I could ask one question of myself in this lifetime, based on what I knew here that I couldn't find in that other world, I would ask the question, what is the one thing that we have in this world that would wake us up and remind us that we're a family and that we are more than the differences that have separated us in the past, and that we're too precious to kill ourselves in war? What is the one thing that could be awakened in this lifetime and shared with every human on the face of the earth that would remind them of that truth? Because I believe it is a truth. That's what I would ask. The principle of resonance is perhaps one of the most powerful principles in nature, because it allows tremendous change to happen very quickly with a very few people in the kinds of things that we're talking about now. And the reason is because if those few people learn the language of resonance with the divine matrix, with the field, if they choose peace and healing in their bodies, and they find that they can convey that in the divine matrix, the focused power of knowing the language is stronger than the chaotic power of not understanding the language. So many people in chaos is what we see in our cities right now. A very few people focused that understand the language may transcend. I'm not going to say that they overpower or that they win. I'll say that they transcend. They're no longer locked into the negativity from those other people. And it's because of the principle of resonance. When we say the practice for many people in the West, again, it sounds like something that we do sometimes. And the key to all of the traditions is that it becomes a way of life rather than something that we do sometimes. Our conditioning in the West is that our spiritual practice is something that we do at the end of the day when the children are fed and the bills are paid and the dishes are done and the clothes are clean and the lunches are prepared for the next day, and then we go into a room and close the door and turn on the music and light the incense and burn a candle, and by then it's 2 o'clock in the morning and we're too tired to do anything, and we take a deep breath and say a mantra and go to bed. The point is, and that's an exaggeration, but for many people, the point is that their spiritual practice is compressed into a few moments after everything else is finished in our culture, ours being the West. However, you go into the Native American cultures in North America, South America, again into the monasteries in Egypt and Tibet, their entire lives are the spiritual practice. And then every once in a while, they will stop that spiritual practice for a moment to make change for 20 euros. It's just the opposite of the way we think about life. So again, it's about becoming the practice and allowing it to be a way of life rather than viewing it as something that we do in a moment in time. And this is, we do programs all over the world, and people come after the program, 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, and they say, great program, where is the next program? What should I study next? And I have to say to them, there is no more. Go home and experience and live what it is that you've learned here. But for some people, the diversion, it's easier to go from workshop to workshop and study to study and teacher to teacher rather than embrace and live what they've learned already in their lives.
Sound changes the way we behave. So we maybe unconsciously, very often will move away from unpleasant sound. We do have some sort of self-preservation instinct in this. And this is the thing retailers are just starting to understand now, with the sound agencies working with big shopping malls all over Europe, just about to start working with a very big retailer in America, to improve the sound of shopping. Because what happens if you make bad sound in a shop is people leave. Not instantly, but sooner than they would. Because, you know, here we are trying to go shopping and we're in this hideous cacophony. It's not pleasant for us. And we just think, oh, I'm tired. Oh, no, I'm going to go home. So we leave. And retailers know there's an equation here. Increased dwell time, they call it, how long we stay in a shop, you increase sales. You know, there's an old adage, if you hang around a barber long enough, you get a haircut.
Most people don't understand how sound affects someone. I know I choose with my eyes now not to look at certain things. I'm really choosy about not to watch the news. I don't want to look at the advertisement with the model and the beard on it, but with my ears, I don't get that choice. And what are some of the things people can kind of be aware of how sound is affecting them?
Well, the four-way sound effects, they're very powerful. And as you absolutely rightly say, we have no earlids. So the ears are working all the time. Even while you sleep, your ears are working. You know, if there's a strange sound in your house while you're asleep, you will wake up. So these things are never asleep. So the first way sound affects us is physiologically. So if I do that, that's a little shot of cortisol, fight-flight hormone. It accelerates the heartbeat. Your hormones are causing fatty acids to enter your bloodstream. You're ready to fight or to flee, and you're not going to do either of those two things. So it's not very good for us.
Okay.
So physiologically, sound changes our bodies all the time, right up to brainwaves, in fact, which have been shown to be entrained by external sound. So if you have a speaker, they've done tests on this, a good speaker in a room will have everybody's brainwaves entrained with his brainwaves or her brainwaves by the end of the talk. Second way is psychologically, moods, emotions, and that's obvious. You just think of music. We can use music to amplify a mood like that, or we can put on a jolly tune to cheer us up when we're feeling low. So we use music to change moods. Birdsong is good for mood as well, we've found. We use it a lot in the sound agency, in offices particularly, because it makes people feel secure. It tends to be when the birds are singing, we're safe. We've learned that over a long time.
Is that something we picked up over the last 100,000 years?
Yeah.
Even animals know that, right?
Totally. Birds have been here much, much longer than we have. They've been here for millions of years, and we've been only around for a few 100,000. So we've grown up to birds. And you and I know when the birds are singing, normally that's a good sign. If they suddenly stop, that's not good. That means something pretty bad is about to happen. Third way sound affects us is cognitively. Nobody can understand two people talking at the same time. So office noise is extremely distracting if you're trying to concentrate. A noisy office is dangerous. It's actually bad for people to work in 65 decibels or more day after day. It creates stress hormones and people become sick, physically sick. It also reduces helpfulness, it reduces sociability, and it is incredibly fatiguing. At the other end of the spectrum, if you have a pin quiet office, which many offices are, you know, you get open plan offices with a finance department working away where the turning of a piece of paper is a major event in the office, you know. Shh, you get that kind of reaction. Well, you've got 20 people in there. If one person takes a phone call, they're putting off all 19 other people immediately because everybody can hear that phone call perfectly. Very intimidating for the person on the phone and very off-putting for everybody else. So we do need some noise in open plan if we're trying to work in that situation. We need some masking sound. I tend to prefer nature sound of some kind because we're very good at setting aside stochastic sound, which would be like gentle rainfall or, you know, gentle water flowing. Something gentle like that. Birdsong is good. Stochastic means composed of many, many random events which create a kind of pleasing wash. So the difference between one bird singing outside your window would drive you mad. The dawn chorus is beautiful. One dripping tap, terrible. Gentle rain on leaves outside the window, everybody loves that one. So we can mask sound, we can create privacy in offices as long as the noise level isn't too high. Then you get somewhere between 45 and 55 decibels is about the sweet spot to work in. There are 4 registers that you can speak in. Now I can't do the top one, which is called, Mariah Carey can do it. It's very, very, very high indeed. Then down below that you've got falsetto register, which is this one. Again, not terribly useful if you're trying to speak powerfully to somebody. It'll remind people of Monty Python. He's a very naughty boy. You know, that's register. It's used by a lot of singers. If you think about Coldplay or many, many bands, they sing in falsetto register, so it's popular for that.
And it obviously hits us with certain emotions when we hear it.
Yeah, it is used by quite a lot of elderly ladies. Hello dear, how are you? You know, speaking here. It's very soft and very unthreatening register to speak in. Then you've got the modal register, which is where most of our speaking comes from. And we can move our voice in the modal register, so it's very powerful to learn how to do that, to move from the nose voice or the head voice up here or the throat voice here, and then move down into the chest voice here, which resonates. Now, this is a big resonating chamber. Again, these things are cultural, but there's an effect because we tend to vote for politicians with deeper voices, research has shown.
That's a fact. Okay.
That's a fact.
Right.
There's been quite a lot of double-blind studies now done which show ceteris paribus. I mean, it's not the only thing in play. Nevertheless, if you're like this, we tend to go for the one with a deeper voice because we associate deeper voices with authority and power.
Right.
Because big things are deeper, like elephants have a deep voice, mice have a very high voice.
I'm thinking of the classic James Earl Jones, "This is CNN."
Yeah,
or, you know, or
exactly.
Darth Vader, right?
Yeah, or
Same
Darth
guy.
Vader would. Yeah, absolutely. Or in a world, you know, this kind of deep voice is taken to be authoritative. So if you want to speak powerfully, it's worth practicing coming down here a little bit. And then there's another register, which again is a thing I rather regret coming into common parlance a lot now. It's called vocal fry, and it sounds like this. You know, we're always stoked about this, and again, very much a West Coast way of
American,
yeah.
right?
And you get largely females. I mean, I did hear a man yesterday. I was at a restaurant, and there was a guy at the next table who was in this the whole time. He was just speaking like this the whole time.
And you pick up everyone's voice.
Yeah, I do, unfortunately, but it's not very pleasant to listen to, and it robs, you know, the voice of all this richness and beauty I think that the voice has. It's also not very good for your vocal cords to speak like that.
Right, and it's being lazy, and you said, I think I heard one of your podcasts where you said it's a meme, and it's kind of lazy meme that people are just resulting to. They probably don't know they're doing it, but they're robbing themselves and everyone around them from the richness of their voice.
I think so, yeah. I think so. I mean, that's an opinion, but
right.
I'm not telling anybody how to behave. I think, you know, if you've got a voice, why not explore the fullness and richness of it? It's a shame to limit it to a tiny, tiny part of its capabilities. Listening to me is even more important. And after all, what's the point of speaking if nobody's listening? Really listening is an extraordinary thing. I mean, literally extraordinary. It's not usual. For the real listener, the person speaking is the only thing that matters in the world at that point. So real listening is not, yeah, I'm listening to you. I am listening to you. Yeah, no, carry on. That's not real listening. Real listening is absolutely focused. It's conscious, because listening is an activity. We tend to think of the ears as passive. Because sound comes in here and we don't do anything, you know, it's not like looking where you're actually doing something.
And it's always on.
It's not passive. Hearing is passive. There's not much you can do about hearing. I mean, I can hear what's going on around me all the time. Listening is making meaning from sound. It's deciding what I'm going to pay attention to and what it means to me. So we use our ears all the time. Unfortunately, a lot of the time, we're very lazy about it. I think listening is in danger, big time. And from technology, apart from anything else. We're becoming very impatient. We're in a multi-stream world. Now, I can't sit on a tube and read a book and listen to music at the same time, but I see people doing that all the time. And I do think the human brain is very plastic and it adapts very quickly to things. So I'm sure that kids are now able to take 3 inputs where I can't, because that's not the way I was brought up and it's not the way my brain works. I'm not sure it's a good thing. I don't know. We shall have to see. It's like the long-term effects of using mobile phones or playing rugby union or whatever. The jury's out on many of these things. We'll have to wait 10, 20, 30 years to see what the effects are on the human body of many of these things. Multiple inputs, I do think, are making us impatient and shallow. There's a great quote from Oscar Wilde. It was an insult he gave about the Marquis of somebody or other. He said his mind is like a soup dish, wide but shallow. And that is pretty much a good description, I think, of social media in many ways. You know, the word friend doesn't quite mean what it used to. And we tend to have now a lot of shallow relationships as opposed to a few deep ones, where there's not a lot of listening going on. You know, I'm on the train. Who cares, really? Who cares? It's personal broadcasting. So we set ourselves up as little mini TV, radio, whatever stations and broadcast our every move to our 6 followers or 6 million followers. It doesn't really matter.
When what they really lack is clarity. If you can change your habits, you can change your life. For many of the habits and behaviors that we want to perform, they're going to take longer than 2 minutes. You know, if you go to the gym, you're not going to work out for just 2 minutes. But any habit can be started in less than 2 minutes. Everybody wants a transformation, right? Everybody wants a radical improvement, want rapid success. But we fail to realize that small habits and little choices are transforming us every day already. That these times when you make a choice that is slightly better, slightly worse, a little mistake or a small error, 1% better or 1% worse, that these things compound over time. And habits are the compound interest of self-improvement. And so if you can learn to master those, then you can make time work for you rather than get against you. Good habits make time your ally. Bad habits make time your enemy. Today I'm going to teach you how to build the habits that you need to get the results that you want. There are 4 stages of habit formation. I'm going to take you through each of those 4. So the 4 stages are noticing, wanting, doing, and liking. You cannot perform a habit or take an action if you do not notice something. I need to see a coffee cup sitting on the side in order to pick it up first. But it's not in my realm of knowledge. If I don't know it exists, I can't do anything about it. But then I need to want it. I need to want to drink coffee and pick it up. If I don't desire it or crave it, then I will not take the action. Then there's doing. You actually do the habit. And then I need to enjoy the reward. I need to enjoy drinking the coffee to repeat it again. One of my favorite things about noticing, one of my favorite strategies for discussing it, it's called implementation intentions. So one of my favorite studies is about exercise. And they had 3 cohorts in this study. So they have first cohort, they said, I just want you to track how often you work out over the next few weeks, right? So that's the standard cohort, the control group. Second group, they said, we want you to track how often you exercise. We're also going to give you a motivational speech presentation, talk about the benefits of heart health, why habits are good for you, and so on. The third group, they got the same presentation, so they were equally motivated, and then they did one thing differently. And that one thing was they filled out this sentence. They said, during the next week, I will partake in at least 20 minutes of vigorous exercise on this day, at this time, in this place. They specifically stated their intention to implement the behavior. Here's what happened. First group, 1 out of 3 of them worked out. Second group, motivation did nothing. As soon as they left the researcher's facility the next day, they weren't motivated. It's like reading a book or watching a YouTube or listening to a motivational speaker and then you forget all about it 20 minutes later. But the third group, the group that had a specific plan for how they were going to implement the behavior, 9 out of 10 of them worked out. So you can increase your odds of success 2 to 3x just by having a specific plan. And this is the insight. Many people think that they lack motivation when what they really lack is clarity. They think that they need to get more motivated, that they need willpower in order to execute on a habit. If I just felt like writing, if I just felt like meditating, if I felt like working out, then I would do it. But in fact, they don't have a plan for it, and so they wake up each day thinking, I wonder if I'll feel motivated to write today. I wonder if I'll feel motivated to work out today. But instead, you can take the decision making out of it by explicitly stating when, where, and how you want to implement the habit. So you need to give your goals a time and a place to live in the world, right? Give them space on your calendar. Core point about noticing is it's hard to change something if you're not aware of it, and one way to become more aware of the opportunity to take action is to have a specific plan for when it's going to happen. Stage 2, wanting. One of the most overlooked drivers of habits and human behavior is our physical environment. And this is an interesting insight about our desires. Your environment often influences them. We want things simply because they are an option, right? Simply because they are in front of us at the time. You walk into any living room in America, where do all the couches and chairs face? They all look at the TV. It's like, what is that room designed to get you to do? We wonder why we sit and watch so much TV, and it's because our desires are shaped in that way. So, thankfully, you don't have to be the victim of your environment, you can also be the architect of it. You can decide to design something to make your good behaviors easier and your bad behaviors harder. So, when it comes to habits, if you want to practice your guitar more frequently, put it right in the middle of your living room so you run across it all the time. If you want to read more, when you make your bed in the morning, take the book you want to read, put it on top of the pillow, when you come back that night, pick it up, read a few pages, go to sleep. Many of our desires are simply shaped because we have an environment that shapes us in that way. So don't rely on willpower and self-control. It's a lot easier to stick to better habits when you're presented with better options. Stage 3, doing. In the beginning, the most important thing is just to shut up and put your reps in. Just make sure that you hone the skill, right? And you can start to think of it, the way that I like to think of it is that any outcome that you wish to achieve is just a point along the spectrum of repetitions. So if you have few reps to more reps, and you can imagine an easy goal, a moderate goal, a hard goal, the more reps that you put in, the more likely you are to achieve that goal. And this is actually very similar to what I saw with my writing habit. So after 6 articles, I had 100 subscribers. After 23, 1,000. After 96, 34,000, 177, 100,000, 243, and so on. And every rep that I put in, every article that I published, was something that was moving me closer to the next outcome on that spectrum. But you can't get around the fact that the repetitions matter. So, and this brings us to an interesting point, which is that if getting your reps in is incredibly important, then that means learning how to start is incredibly important because each repetition, really any consistency with the habit, is just an exercise in getting started each day. If you can get started over and over again, then that's what consistency is. For many of the habits and behaviors that we want to perform, they're going to take longer than 2 minutes. If you go to the gym, you're not going to work out for just 2 minutes. But any habit can be started in less than 2 minutes, whether it's writing, working out, meditating, anything. And so the goal here is that you want to optimize for the beginning of the task. You want your habits to act as an entrance ramp to a bigger routine. What I like to say is you should optimize for the starting line, not the finish line. Right? So often when we think about habits, goals, routines, achievements, it's all about the milestone. We think about how much weight we want to lose, how much money we want to earn, how many subscribers we want to have. It's all fixed on the finish line. But instead, if you can optimize for the starting line and make it as easy as possible to get started and get your reps in, often the outcomes just come as a natural result. Stage 4, liking. So the only reason that we repeat behaviors is because we enjoy them, because we like the reward. If we don't enjoy the experience along the way, we're unlikely to stick with it. And that means that you need to figure out ways to bring a reward into the present moment because good habits have a problem. And that problem is that for good habits, the immediate consequence is there. There's a cost that happens in the moment, but the reward is often delayed. If I go to the gym now, it's cost me time and energy and effort, but the reward is I'll be fit 3 months from now or not get sick 10 years from now or so on. The reward is delayed. Bad habits are often the reverse. If I eat a donut right now, the benefit is it tastes great and I get a hit of sugar and it's awesome, and the consequence is delayed, right? I get overweight 3 weeks from now or 3 months from now or so on. So you need to figure out how to bring the reward into the present moment to stick to a good habit. Many people, they'll get a chain going and then they fall off track and they feel bad about it. They feel like, I ruined it. I had this great thing and now it's over. The streak is gone. But what you find when you look at top performers is not that they don't make mistakes. They make mistakes just like everybody else, but they can just get back on track more quickly. And in fact, if you could just adhere to this one rule, never miss twice, then you would, even if you fell off track every single time after you got back on track, you still would do it 50% of the time. Change can happen plank by plank, board by board, habit by habit. And gradually, you can become someone new. With consistency and repetition, you can actually change not only your results, but actually your identity. And the reason that this is true is because the more evidence that we have for a belief, the more likely we are to believe it. So if you go to church every Sunday for 20 years, you believe that you are religious. If you study Spanish every Thursday night for 20 minutes, you believe that you are studious. The actions that you take provide evidence for who you are. And it's not that habits matter more necessarily on an individual basis. Each moment in life matters. But what ends up happening is that over the broad span of time, things that you do once or twice fade away, and things that you do time after time, day after day, week after week, accumulate the bulk of the evidence for what you believe about yourself. And so every action that you take is actually a vote for the type of person that you want to become. If you want to become someone new, then you can take a new action and begin to accumulate evidence for that identity, for that belief about yourself. And that the more votes that you cast, the more likely you are to win the election. You don't need to be unanimous. You don't have to be perfect all the time. You just need to have the body of work. So true change is actually not behavior change. It's not results change. It's not process change. It's identity change. The goal is not to read a book, it's to become a reader. The goal is not to write a book or write an article, it's to become a writer. The goal is not to run a marathon, it's to become a runner, to become a type of person, to develop an identity. And the way to being something or becoming someone is through doing something. So every time you sit down to write, every time you practice that habit, you are being a writer. Every time you play a sport, you're being an athlete. Every time you practice painting or music or whatever, you are being an artist. Your identity emerges out of the habits that you have. It's not just about getting you to make small changes. It's not just about putting a book on your pillow or putting an apple on the counter. It's actually about getting you to believe something new about yourself, something possible about yourself. And habits are not only the method through which we achieve external measures of success, like losing weight or earning more money or meditating and reducing stress. They are also the path through which we achieve internal change and actually become someone new. They're the path through which we forge the identity that we have, the deepest beliefs we have about ourselves, our sense of self. And so if you can change your habits, you can change your life.
I want to take away fear. There's a lot of unnecessary suffering going on just because people believe the wrong things.
It's destiny and it is fate. And if destiny and all that,
No, this time we learn to control our happiness, health, and strength.
Need motivation?
Watch the top 10 with Believe Nation.
What's up, Believe Nation? It's Evan. My one word is believe, and I believe in you. I believe you have Michael Jordan level talent at something, and I want you to find it, embrace it, and use it to make a difference. So let's get your motivation to a 10 and get you believing in you. Grab a snack and chew in today's lessons from a man who went from growing up in the Netherlands and being attracted to the cold since age 17 to now holding 26 world records, including climbing to the top of Mount Everest in nothing but shorts and shoes. He's Wim Hof, and here's my take on his top 10 rules of success. Enjoy. Okay, let's kick it off with rule number 1. Take control of your life.
What was your life like before you became the Iceman?
And actually, I was a father of 4 kids. And bringing them up alone, because my wife accidented in '95.
So that kind of like adversity and sadness maybe motivated you to and inspire yourself in the same way a lot of people who do your
sadness is a deep trigger. Where I got peace was in these breathing exercises, swimming outside in the cold. The cold is merciless, but righteous as well.
All the people say, yeah, you cannot steer life, you cannot do this, and yeah, it's part of life, and it's destiny, and it is fate, and destiny, and all that. No, this time we learn to control our happiness, health, and strength, and that's not philosophical or sectarian, it's chemistry.
Rule number 2, don't let fear stop you.
Was there ever a time in your life where you lost belief in yourself?
Whoa, that many times I've encountered almost, death. And then I'm losing it.
How do you come back from that type of experience?
Yes.
How do you retrain your body and your mind to believe in the next record, the next adventure?
Yeah, actually very quick. An example, for example, is the first time I had to do a record with the Guinness World Records, swimming under the ice, say 50 meters. One hole here, one hole there, 1 meter of ice, and then breath hold, freezing waters beyond the polar circle situation. And then the day before I had to do the actual record, I went in, I had no goggles on, I lost the way because I lost a sight, it got frozen, the cornea, the retina, and I lost it. I did 113 meters.
Because you couldn't find the hole.
And I couldn't find it all.
Oh my gosh.
I almost, in the end I fainted it. But I did not feel any agony. I felt actually quite peaceful. After minutes and minutes under the ice, swimming, you exhaust your body. And I got this narrowed vision, boom, just seeing that. That's physiological.
Wow.
And then I went on swimming. It was all okay. It was like I was swimming into the death, unconsciousness. And then somebody grabbed me, a diver, and he brought me back to the 50-meter hole, which I lost.
Oh, you kept going past the hole?
Yeah, I deviated. Yeah, completely off. Yeah. And it was the rehearsal, so the diver was not underneath the ice. He was still up there. But I was for minutes much too long. Then where is he? Yeah, then they found me under the ice.
Wow.
That's a moment.
So how did you come back from that? How do you train your mind to believe in yourself again?
At that moment, I actually had I overcame the fear of death, of dying. There was no agony. That's strange. And that's past my perception of what I thought was death, fear and this, nobody wants to die. Maybe it's much more beautiful out there, where in the afterlife. And now we gotta live. I always say, I'm not afraid to die, I'm afraid not to live. Quotes and things, but based on experience. And So I really defied death and the fear for death over there. Not defying like I did it. No, it happened, and I learned from it to take away my fear for death. So, and then the other day, I only had to do 50 meters, which was
Simple.
a piece of cake.
Couple of butterfly kicks and you're there, huh?
That's it.
Came out happy.
Yeah. Okay, the winner. That was my number one
I like it.
record.
Do you face fear now when you go into some extreme challenge or in any part of your life?
Good question. Any part of the life, because it's all about the life. Actually, no. I'm a man on a mission.
No fears.
Oh, no. I'm a man on a mission. I want to take away fear. Irrational fears. Traumatic fears. Fears created because you do not handle mental issues as grief, emotion, PTSD, trauma, depression. Those things we are going to tackle. And somebody's got to do this, and I should have no fear to accomplish that. A man on a mission should not think in fear. He should go and accomplish his mission.
Yeah.
And be focused. So there I am. I feel fear like everybody because it's natural too.
You feel fear of failure, is that what you said?
No. I feel fear
Gotcha.
like everybody.
But it doesn't hold you back from moving forward.
Absolutely not. Come on, man. It's much too important.
Rule number 3, my personal favorite, embrace the power of the mind.
Explain the mission, why you're doing this, why it's so important to you. It's not just about setting the world records, but why do you do this?
Yes, as I said, I did a lot of stuff outside in nature because I felt this disconnection from nature inside, from the soul itself. Soul is not able to express, and you can see it in the world full of depression and autoimmune diseases, cancer, all those things, and anxiety. So nobody knows actually, it's because of the disconnection of nature. So it resulted in me in an awkward feeling. I don't know what there is, but there is more than meets the eye. I'm going into a soul search. And that brought me to all kinds of traditions, esoteric disciplines, languages, religions, debates about philosophies, cultures, anything, But in the end, it didn't connect with me. That's what the cold water came in. And the cold water is merciless but righteous.
Okay.
So, boom. Hey, you gotta be there.
Right.
But little by little, you begin to wake up to that what you feel inside. It's beginning to wake up. A real primordial disconnection is beginning to connect to your consciousness, brain-body connection. And now, after doing 26 of those world records, but numerous more challenges, I've gotten in contact with scientists. And then it came about that I was awakening, stimulating, influencing systems within the body they thought of not being able to be influenced or connected with for humans. They thought, hey, humans cannot tap in. It's an autonomic nervous system. It's an autonomic process outside of our will. But brain-body connection, remember connection? Yeah, there it is. And now I'm able to connect, enter, and make the difference. And that's what I did in the studies.
Wim's mission is to use his body as a laboratory to revolutionize our understanding of physiology. In 2011, he was injected with a bacterial endotoxin in an experiment that challenged our understanding of the nervous system. In normal humans, the injection should cause a strong immune response, leading to fever, chills, and headaches. But not in Wim. It appeared that he was somehow able to suppress his immune response by making his body secrete adrenaline, suggesting that his method can allow us to influence our immune system at will. Scientists thought he might just be a freak of nature, so to further prove this theory, they performed the same experiment on 12 subjects Wim had trained in Poland, and the same thing happened.
Proof you only get after competitive study with groups. So I took on a full group. I trained them 4 days to get into the autonomic nervous system and all those things. And they got administered with the bacteria and as well all within a quarter of an hour, entering into those systems.
And now we are getting somewhere. The power of the mind. Yeah, we are dealing in modern day society. We can go to the moon, we can go to Mars and everywhere, but we cannot tap into the depth of ourselves and make the difference with depression, anxiety, fear, trauma, PTSD, anything.
Rule number 4, live in harmony with nature.
I think there is a global tendency now which is looking for answers, which is looking for new things. Today it's like a general way of thinking that the past is not going to make it for the present situation. We have too much stress, too much autoimmune diseases, cancer, depression. We are not happy anymore. We cannot guarantee this happiness, strength, and health to our children. What's happening with the love? So, that love within the native people, they live much more in harmony with nature. And we thought, as Westerners, to take them over, colonize them and all that. But now we are looking at a dead end. We actually need to go back to become in harmony with nature. Doesn't mean we go live in teepees and wigwams and caves and all that. We got these big buildings, etc. But don't forget, if we are able to shoot to the moon and not to become happy, strong and healthy, then we got some place to visit.
Rule number 5, find your passion.
Tell us about the first time you decided to jump into an ice cold pool.
Yeah, I was 17. I also began just because I felt this urge within myself. There is more between heaven and earth. I didn't know what, but I was driven to find out. That's the way it all starts, with the intuition, with an instinct. Something inexplicable drives me. So before when I was 12 years, I was already into psychology books. And I was into karate and yoga and all those things. Anything I could get my hands upon, I was doing it. So at 17, I was really like a ripe fruit to get into the depth. And that's what happened. When a Sunday morning, I was outside, I saw a thin layer of ice on water. I looked around because I had to undress myself, and nobody around Sunday morning. Easy like Sunday. No. Going into the water. And I felt from the inside, this is it. You feel it. And only 1 minute. And it gave me a rush. And so the other day I came back to see if it was repeated. And yes. And you know what happens? In the beginning, I was really, I did not really feel the cold. I became aware I didn't feel the cold. That was like I was playing around with the ice. That was the first very remarkable thing to me. It's not cold. That is actually a natural capacity of ours to deal of the body to be able to deal with the impact is there. So from there I became aware that if I began to breathe like this, deeper, oh, my body got charged. And I don't recommend this for anybody, but I was doing breathing exercises in the water at ease, and at a certain moment, just a couple of months it took, I could stay for 5 to 7 minutes under the ice. Every day, no problem, very controlled. Don't do it if you cannot control this, yeah? Learn gradually to learn to oxygenate the body so much in harsh environment that you become so tranquil like a baby in the womb. Under the ice, wonderful, deep meditation. Yeah. And that's what I did every day.
Rule number 6, change your chemistry.
If we just breathe more deeply, change the chemistry inside. Not shallow breathing, deep breathing. Slowly but surely. This is what you do consciously. You do this 30 times. The chemistry in the body, in the tissue, is changing. And it's changing so that the body is becoming oxygenized, alkaline, and then suddenly the brain-body connection is possible by pressurizing, by once you begin to have that connection with the body, then you are able to connect within, in the brain. And that's what we do right now with Stanford University to get rid of PTSD, fear, trauma, and depression, to learn to expand consciousness. And together with breathing, you create the right chemistry, and then the neurons, they channel up, and thus your perception, your consciousness, is going to be, you smell more, you see the colors brighter, you experience deeper. And that's the brain. And then connecting once again with all the cells makes you a beautiful living being.
Rule number 7, learn by trial and error.
What does it take in the brain? What kind of control does it take from the brain, the mind, over the body to go into extremes, as I've been shown, like going climbing Mount Everest to the death zone in shorts, or going record distances under the ice, or standing for 2 hours in ice, directly contact. What kind of mind control do you need to be able to do that? That's what I learned to do through trial and error, just by following my feeling. So I felt good, and good feeling is like connection of the mind over the body. That feels good. That actually is a way to learn to bring up your psyche controlled. And that is what is needed in a very extreme situation wherein ice water is taking place. But actually I took the ice water environment to learn to deal with my mind in connection with the body.
Rule number 8, step out of your comfort zone.
We've been saying now to 5 million Spartans out there, get out of your comfort zone. Get uncomfortable. If the weather's bad, go outside and do a workout in the bad weather.
Yes.
Right? We're saying to the children, get uncomfortable. And so we're not crazy.
Actually, you go and get into real comfort. Because the real comfort is being activated through the natural elements. First, you get through this little shivering of, oh, it's outside. But then, at a certain moment, it begins to adapt. From the deep inside, begins to adapt to the environment, the environmental stress, and you feel
alive.
Good.
Alive.
You see?
Rule number 9, breathe and believe.
There's a lot of unnecessary suffering going on. Just because people believe the wrong things. They believe in pills, they believe in medicines, they believe depression cannot be tackled. They believe you cannot enter into your brain. And I tell you, we found a way to get back to yourself, get back to Mother Nature within us, and make some sense within yourself. You are the one who is able now to make yourself happy, strong, and healthy. And that is entering in all those systems just by your mind. We are showing this through science, but do you need science when I already show this in science with data, scientific results, brain scans, no speculation? I tell you, but it takes time for publishing and to get it into books and to get it in mainstream. I tell you here and right now, if you just believe and breathe and take a cold shower for God's sake, because it's good for your blood system, then you will become in the ability to realign with the control within yourself, to become happy, strong, and healthy, to control your mood and your energy management and all. Look it otherwise up, because it is simple, very effective. It's here right now. So my message to you is just breathe and believe.
And rule number 10, the last one before a very special bonus clip, is do amazing things.
My companion, my great friend, a warrior inside of me, able to overcome any challenge, is a big gun. No, it's the breath. Here I take it. Breathe with me. Let it go. Fully in. Imagine you are in the ice. Follow him. There you go. Let it go. And keep him. Hold up. There we go. You can swim with me. Under the water. There he goes. There he goes. Crazy. There he goes. There he goes. But he's doing it. He's not thinking. He fear. Look at him go. Dang. And on. And on. And on. And on. And on. Man, where's the light? There it is. Okay. There we are. Yes.
Now I've got two really special bonus Wim Hof clips on how to master your body and mind and do the Wim Hof method. But before that, I want to make sure we are moving from just watching a video to actually taking action. So I have 3 questions, homework for you to think about as you watch this video. Question number 1, what are you afraid of doing and why must you conquer it? Question number 2, what's the biggest lesson that you have learned through trial and error? And question number 3, what's the biggest area of your life or business that you need to take control of? Write it down for yourself, do the questions with a friend, or leave the answers down in the comments below. Either way, I want you moving from not just watching another video, but to actually taking some kind of action in your business or in your life. Thank you guys so much for watching. I believe in you. I hope you continue to believe in yourself and whatever your one word is. Much love. I'll see you soon and enjoy the bonus clip.
Well, the Greeks used to say it's mind and body, right? It's not just, right? And what drives me crazy is there's so many successful, monetarily successful people out there, business people, that have clearly mastered that or mastered anything that requires the brain, but they're not taking care of their body, right? Can you imagine how much more powerful they'd be if it was connected? Which I think is what, right?
You know, people who think they can control it all, it's just the surface of the brain. The deeper parts include the sensation and the experience with your body. Then the brainstem is going to work, the limbic system is going to work, and when they all come together, then you got expanding consciousness, spirituality, and you become very, very powerful. I created a method. The components are breathing, mindset, and cold exposure. Gradual, non-forced cold exposure. And that's to optimize the mind-body connection.
Wim has figured out ways, namely through breath work and through exposure to cold, to take conscious control over aspects of his physiology that, for most people, they simply can't tune into and control.
The cold, my warm friend, it brings about a whole lot of more energy, and that together with breathing makes you so powerful. But then you lose your wife and it all rumbles down. 4 children I had with my wife, and I was to be with her forever. She was the love of my life. She died. She suicided. It's a black hole within yourself. It breaks your heart and you don't know why, but the train of a daily life is going on and you gotta catch up, otherwise you lose it. So I had to be there for my children. And yes, we created a new nest. My children made me survive in that time, but nature healed my wounds. The cold gave me a direct understanding of deeper breathing and how to heal a broken heart. Then I went and did all kinds of remarkable challenges. Apparently, they found it very remarkable and great and spectacular. So I came in contact with television. One after the other, they challenged me more. Hey, go swim 50 meters under the ice. Go swim 100 meters under the ice. Climb Mount Everest in shorts. That led up that the scientists became curious. Hey, what this man is doing is not possible physiologically.
The science of what Wim Hof method does is one of the primary interests of my lab now because it is so powerful and it's been shown to be powerful in the immune system, and we believe it will also hold some real potential for treatment of neurologic diseases.
And this breathing technique brings you right into the deepest part of our physiology. Anybody can do it. So you become the alchemist of your own chemistry.
Altruistic, world domination, honey empire, right?
I'm grateful. I understand why I'm here.
I think because I am so open.
I wanted to think and say, it's a bloody brief life.
All of you have the potential for enormous success.
If you want to know what Gary Vee, DJ Khaled, Oprah, and others know about empire building that most people miss, check out the link in the description for a free bonus video.
I'm going to share with you the 10 keys to unlock what I call your quick brain. Right? These are the 10 things scientifically proven to help you be faster, smarter, and better, to optimize your brain health and your fitness. And now, every single thing I'm going to say, nobody's going to debate, right? They're going to say, yes, of course, but common sense is not common practice. So what I'm going to ask people who are watching this is to rate yourself 0 to 10. How well am I doing in this one area? Like in terms of how I'm eating or exercising or something. And then you'll notice, everyone wants to know what the magic pill is. There's no magic memory pill. They're magic memory processes, right? If everyone wants to know the one silver bullet, you have to do all of these things because that's what falls within the focal point. Meaning the 80-20 rule, the 20% that gives you 80% of the results and the rewards. So really fast, the 10 keys for unlocking your quick brain. Number one is good brain food, all right? Good brain food, because you are what you eat. What you eat matters, especially to your gray matter. There's certain foods that are really good for your brain, and you probably eat most of these foods as you are, because I know you're very...
Blueberries,
yeah, all like blueberries is like, I call them brain berries, and avocados and the good fats and all of them. So there's 10 of them that I recommend, and so they're really excellent. They're very neuroprotective and such, including dark chocolate. So dark chocolate is good. What's good for your mood is generally good for your mind. But so a good brain diet is number one. So just rate yourself on a scale of 0 to 10. How good is your diet? All right. Number two is killing ants. Automatic negative thoughts. Your self-talk. And so what I would recommend people, 0 to 10. How's that feel? How well are you doing? And not only that, but maybe going on a little fast or a cleanse. Like we cleanse the food we eat and things we put in our body, but what about the thoughts that we're putting in our body?
They try to do 30 days of no negative thoughts.
I mean, yeah,
one day,
or not complaining or something
right,
like
no
that.
Complaining challenge,
because it's just, again, people get so addicted to these things like complaining, and whatever you're rehearsing, you're literally rewiring your brain to get more of that. It's not law of attraction. There's a law of action that's going on. That makes it, because all behavior is belief driven. And so you're wiring your brains to be really rehearsing those things. That's why they say that the fearful person dies 1,000 times, like a coward dies 1,000 times in their mind, and a non-coward, like a brave person dies just once. Because every time you're rehearsing, oh, I'm scared of public speaking, you do it over and over again, not only do you get the fear of it every single time, because your mind doesn't know the difference between something you vividly imagine and something that's real. Literally, if you were to put on a brain sensing device, the same parts of your brain that would light up if a dog walked in, you see what parts of your brain lights up, and if you imagine that dog walking in, the same exact parts of your brain will light up. So the mind doesn't know the difference. It's the most powerful tool you have is your imagination. Our thoughts are things, and it's activating our imagination. So, don't do it to rehearse your fears and the things that are negative, right? Only have thoughts of things that you want to really happen. Okay. So the third thing, exercise. Okay. People, really, we know. Number 4, brain nutrients. Omega-3s, the DHAs, the ginkgo biloba, vitamin B, B12s. And this is a subject that comes up because, a lot of people travel, they have fast food lifestyles, and, but maybe they're lacking in certain supplements. And what I would say is, I'm not a nutritionist, I'm not anything that ends on an ist, but go to a doctor, a good functional medicine doctor, have a blood test. And I say the same thing for diet. When people say, what's the best? You know, do food sensitivity tests. See what your blood says. You know, red, yellow, green. You know, red, stay away from. Yellow, you know, sparingly. Green, and see how you flourish on it afterwards, right? And then test it. But same thing with nutrient profile. You can see what you're deficient at. Because if you're low on B vitamins, if you're low on DHA, then you're gonna have cognitive issues, right? So supplement. Fifth thing that you want to optimize your brain is positive peer group. We know who you spend time with is who you become. And it's not just a positive thinking, you know, affirmation quote. Literally, you have mirror neurons, and your mirror neurons in your nervous system is when you could watch a sport or watch a movie and you could feel what they feel. It's what or you have empathy for other people. We're always imitating people, right? And so who you spend time with is who you become, because you're imitating their habits, their behaviors, their thought patterns, and everything. So that's why they say you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, right? If you're around 9 broke people, you're gonna be the 10th, right? Like you hear these things all the time, but it's not just your biological networks or your neurological networks, analyze your social networks, right? Because whether or not you smoke has less to do with your neurological networks and more to do whether or not your friend's friend smoke. Is going to have more of an influence. 6th thing for your brain, clean environment. We know a clean environment is good for your brain. At an anecdotal level, you know when you clean your desk or you clean your laptop off, you know you have clarity of thought, right? But I don't just mean that, I mean clean air, clean water, because there's a lot of pollutants that's not good for your cognition, right? So from there, we have number 7, sleep. This is a big one for so many people. Sleep is so important for your brain for 3 reasons. Number 1 is where you consolidate short to long-term memory. Everyone who pulled an all-nighter back in university, that hurt you because you need that sleep. Number 2, it's where you clean out the plaque that could lead to brain aging challenges. And that's what the latest research is saying in terms of leading to dementia and such. And then the 3rd reason is because when you dream. And here's the thing, you're like, Jim, what does that have to do with anything, Jim? It's like, you don't know how many amazing ideas and invention, literature, works of art came in dream states. Like, did you know, like I mentioned Mary Shelley, you know, here in London, Frankenstein came to her in a dream. You know, Paul McCartney came up with Yesterday in his dream. You know, like a chemist came up with the periodic table in his dream. Elias Howe created the sewing machine in his dream, right? Like, what are you dreaming about late at night? Because when you are working all day and you're learning all day, your brain doesn't shut off at night. At night, it's more active. People don't realize that. You think it's just not happening. It's actually more active, and it's coming up with solutions, and it's integrating stuff in the form of dreams. Number 8 is brain protection, meaning that, you know, like I work with a lot of athletes, high-performer athletes. Concussions are a big deal, right? You know, and I've had a number of TBIs, you know, traumatic brain injuries. But not just that, you know, I did a whole episode on electromagnetic fields. Like, people don't realize that like our smart devices, like our brains didn't really evolve to have like all this electricity like right by our brains, you know. And I read recently that 90% of kids sleep with their phones underneath their pillows. I mean, who knows the effect that's having?
So better avoid it.
Protect your brain. Wear a helmet. And then finally, 9 and 10. 9th key to keeping your brain alive is new learnings. Right? The neurogenesis and neuroplasticity means neurogenesis, you could create new brain cells the day you die. Science never thought that. Neuroplasticity is saying you could create new connections. The way to improve neurogenesis, neuroplasticity, 2 things, novelty and nutrition. Just like when you're an athlete, just like training your body, you give it novelty or stimulus, and then you feed it with nutrition, right? And so that's how you build your mental muscles too. Finally, number 10, stress management. Stress management, meaning people don't realize it because it's invisible, but it's like you don't realize how much stress you're under until you're on vacation or you're getting a massage. You don't realize because it's all there all the time. It's like the fish that they don't see the water because it's there all the time. So what are we doing to cope? So, you know, meditation, relaxation, massage, yoga, whatever it is that gets us stressed.
If you want to change your life, I mean radically improve your life, you must first change your perception of yourself. It comes down to beliefs, because at the end of the day, no matter how hard you work, no matter how many hours you put in, if you don't believe you can do it, you won't do it. You won't do it because when you get to that impossible moment, you'll quit. You'll procrastinate. You'll come up with all sorts of excuses because you don't believe you can do it. But if you identify yourself as someone who does achieve that particular thing, when you get to those impossible moments, you will rise to the occasion. You will rise. You will rise because you will believe you can do it. even if there's only 1% of people in the world capable of achieving it, you'll believe you are in that 1%. Because you identify yourself as a winner. You identify yourself as someone who will do whatever it takes. Someone who's willing to go through the pain to get to the other side. You identify yourself as someone who will win in the end, no matter what. Think about habits and addictions you want to change. If you're a smoker, for example, no matter what processes you go through to change your habit of smoking, you'll never change it long term if you still identify yourself as a smoker. If you see the process as hard, or see it like it is taking something away from you, it's taking away your stress release, or whatever story you tell yourself. You see, the people who quit smoking without cravings, they do so because their new identity has changed. They're not smoking anymore. Smoking is equal to death. Smoking, the bad habit, is viewed as something that takes away from their life, not adds to it. It's the same for any habit, any addiction, anything you want to change in your life. Change your identity and change the meaning you give to that thing, and you'll be able to remove it and replace it with something that takes you to a much better place, somewhere you actually want to be. You've got to take a moment by yourself and ask some deep and honest questions. You might want to write these down. Ask them, write your answers. Then after that, write down how you want to see yourself. So, what is your current identity? How do you view yourself? In regards to your health, how do you view yourself? Are you someone who is healthy? Are you someone who has discipline to eat foods that make you stronger every day? Are you someone who exercises every day? If no, why not? If yes, can you train better, harder, differently so you feel at your peak every day? In regards to your achievements in life, can you do more? If yes, why haven't you? What is holding you back? Do you enjoy what you do for a living? What can you change to enjoy it more? How would you describe yourself in 3 sentences? Write it down. If you were to explain your qualities and struggles in 3 or less sentences to a complete stranger, how would you describe yourself? Write down whatever comes to your mind. This is not about being perfect or looking good. This is private. This is honest, and if you're real and ready, it will lead to change. Now, write down how you want to see yourself. Picture 1 year from today. Imagine yourself 1 year from today after all the daily work you've put in to transform your life. Look at yourself from a bird's eye view. You're looking with pride because you are the exact person you want to be. You created this. You built this character. Now write down what qualities this person has. Write down in 2 to 3 short sentences who this person is. Is it someone who is completely, authentically themselves? Is it someone you see smiling all the time? Someone with great relationships? Someone who lights up everyone they come into contact with? Is it someone who has a crazy amount of physical energy? Someone who has unbreakable discipline, but that discipline comes easy? Is it someone that makes life look easy and fun? Someone who has created the wealth and happiness exactly as they pictured? Is it someone who learns and applies that learning to achieve results? Is it someone who keeps going and going and going? Who is that person? Now, write 1 sentence. Who are you now? I am. I am someone who lives with passion. Someone who is disciplined with ease. I am someone who only consumes that which makes me stronger. food, learning, people. I am someone who lives every day to the fullest and pushes myself every today so I am stronger every tomorrow. I am someone who knows exactly where they are going, so I only take actions that get me closer to that place in every area. Who are you? Who are you? I am. I am someone who lives with passion, someone who is disciplined with ease. I am someone who only consumes that which makes me stronger. Food, learning, people. I am someone who lives every day to the fullest and pushes myself every today so I am stronger every tomorrow. I am someone who knows exactly where they are going, so I only take actions that get me closer to that place in every area. Who are you? Who are you?